What's up?
What's happening, man?
I'm good, man. Yeah. Yeah, man.
We're on live.
No, we can't be.
Here we are.
And you got me playing all this stuff, man. Really?
Yeah, man. But man, it's 5 up. I mean, that's just normal.
Oh my goodness. No, I don't go live until 6. It's all good. Sorry about all the music in the background, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to get started in a few minutes. Yeah, I see you clicking. That's why I didn't. I got it. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I got to wait for that to come on, and we'll be good to go at 6. Okay.
Can't hear you, Jamie.
Um. Good evening. Welcome to the financial series with Corey D. Moody and D. Edward Cheney. We thank you for joining us tonight. Again, we had some free sound. We apologize for that, but sometimes it's good to hear the quips and quibbles of what we're trying to do. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we thank you in advance for joining us, and we look forward to your active participation. And without further ado, we're so pleased to have with us Mr. Corey D. Moody, certified public accountant, certified valuation analyst. Right.
All right. Well, welcome to another edition of Winning with Prostate Cancer, No Fear Necessary, a financial series. We're doing this in conjunction with the Renaissance Fellowship with D. Edward Cheney. So I want to thank you, and I'm going to turn off this AC so we don't hear all that sound. But I want to thank you for joining us. And we've been here for, I don't know, man, almost 16, 17 weeks now. And we really appreciate it. You know, you can catch us on Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Instagram, Apple Podcast. And we're here Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I do another show on Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we want to make sure you register for these classes on Zoom. We do have a Zoom that we use to kind of help follow and get some handouts. As a matter of fact, we got a new handout this week. You'll be seeing this screen come up real soon with some of the things that we're going to be using today. So again, I want to thank you for joining us, and this has really been a good journey, and I just love this series, and it keeps me kind of focus on what I need to do with my life, and not just from a financial perspective, but it really hits me more on the spiritual than it does even on the financial. It just so happens that, the financial are the numbers or the indicators that we kind of use, to kind of keep us, on trail. So it's a good thing. And I want to thank you for joining. So I kind of want to review a couple of things. Tonight we're going to really kind of hit debt, kind of maybe for the last time. We're going to go over the spreadsheet, but this is the big piece where we're going to just really give it to God and understand what we have to do to really get out of debt. And 90% of it is mental. And we talk about so many things in athletics, that is how mental things are. So just to kind of go over a couple of things, we'll go over the construction process. Remember, we talked about that covenant. You got to have that covenant, that contract with God. We talked about the bid process last week, and sometimes we underbid, and somebody may come in and take over, and hopefully we can, get some change orders in to make up for the losses that we may have. So that happens, and that comes in the form of a change order. We kind of talked about that. So some things that we just want to make sure, some principles, about the covenant, God's covenant, that that is passed down to us generation to generation, if we believe we are from the seed of Abraham. And that's why I'm real careful when people talk about the Old Testament doesn't apply. Well, does that mean then we've lost those covenant relationships and those inheritance that are supposed to be passed down? So just got to be real careful, and sometimes people may just not understand what you're saying, and so they just like to throw out noise or red herrings to get you off track. So it's just important that you understand and have a good baseline, for yourself, so you don't get distracted with noise. So here we're going to kind of get started here, and I'm going to show the screen here. We kind of started on this before with the debt schedule. I think we kind of started here. Well, I'm going to go back from where we started. So we kind of started here on this, net worth statement, so we kind of filling this in, and now you see we have some legends put in here that kind of gives us the detail of where these numbers come from. And this is just a simple Excel spreadsheet. This is yours. If you've signed in on the Zoom, you can get this. You can download it. It's out there. So if you sign into the Zoom webinar, it's yours out there to get right now. And so this other financial statements, which kind of shows us that net worth, our value. We talked about that. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And then we kind of talked about the budget. And it kind of helps us understand and gives us a guideline of what we're doing. And then we kind of talked about the debt schedule. We came up with all these balances, monthly payments, and the number of payments left. That's very important. The interest rate, and this is an income line, and you will see some more calculations at the bottom. But it's really important to understand what your interest rate is, what your monthly payment is, and what your balances are. And those are important because that's going to give you time to understand how long it's going to take to get out of debt. The goal is to get debt free. Well, so understanding that when things are high interest rate, it's going to take a lot longer. And if you're making monthly payments, it could take forever to kind of do those things. So, if you have for instance, if you have a credit card you got a $10,000 balance credit card at 15% interest, which most credit cards probably carry a higher interest than that. But if you're making a monthly minimum payment, it's going to take you 28 years to pay that off. So these credit cards, you making monthly payments, it's taking years and years to pay those off. So that same $10,000 credit card that I'm talking about is going to take you 28 years. You're going to pay an additional $12,000 in interest. So you're paying more than you borrowed back in interest. So to understand that is real important, because that's why understanding our value, understanding these numbers are so important. So when you understand your value, as it relates to, who you are and what you're supposed to be looking at from these indicators, it should help you make better financial decisions instead of this coming from me, telling you, hey, this is what you need to do because I got these initials behind my name. Don't mean anything if you don't believe and understand it. So it doesn't matter where you go if you're not getting the proper mental understanding. I just believe that hinders us from moving forward. So it's just real important that we understand value. And that's why we spent a lot of time at the very beginning understanding value. Because if you see you borrowed $10,000 and you're paying another $12,000 back in interest, $22,000 to borrow 10, don't make sense. So understanding your value is going to help you start making better decisions as it relates to your finances. So that's why this value proposition is important. Not so much just, to give you numbers and talk about, debt or your value and make you feel a certain way, but it's also to get you to think differently about your money. And so when you understand it, it makes a difference. So one of the things, let's pretend that this person here was trying to go get a loan to get a mortgage. And one of the things they do what's called a front end and a back end ratio. So what this thing kind of does, if you put all your numbers in here, it's going to kind of tell you where your ratios are. Am I in line to what I need to be doing? So if you just kind of drop this stuff in, it's kind of this fun to kind of play with it. Here's the schedule. So you're going to see these schedules here. So this is how much they have in retirement, real estate, personal property, jewelry. So when you go back to the personal financial statement, so here's the detail of those numbers. Okay. And so this kind of helps you get detail and do a good inventory. One of the things I believe that really helps people really get out of debt is to do a true inventory, but not go through the motions, but really do the day-to-day and the schedules. But when you do it yourself, you kind of feel it and you kind of get that understanding. So I just always believe in the clients that I've always worked with, making them kind of go back to the basics helps them really get out of debt. And now there are apps and all this stuff that you can use, and by all means, go ahead and use those. But I like to kind of use this because it gives a better snapshot or understanding of what we're doing. So, just for instance, his real estate is scheduled to 240,000. You hit this tab here, and it tells us, if you have multiple properties, so it just kind of makes you go through everything that you own. And so for instance, your personal property, I'm cheating, just have one line, but list your furniture, list all the different things so you can really kind of see where you are and what's happening. And you start making that money and those indicators come to life. And when you start making those decisions, then you start looking at things a little different. So that's why it's important to kind of go through it, make yourself a little uncomfortable. Okay. So now how does this relate? What does God say? How can this really help me, get out of debt? Well, if you remember, back in Deuteronomy, remember, God sent the man to take over this land. Okay, and they sent the spies out, to go look, and they came back and said, "Hey, man, it's good land. Hey, they got some good fruit. It's a good place, man. This is a good place to go get." But the spies went out to kind of help form a plan, to understand, to kind of see what's going on, and that's how we have to relate these schedules. Is we got to plan this, and we look at our debt. One of the things that happened, they were grumbling and mumbling, why we leave Egypt, just to take us, just to get killed, just being afraid. And are we afraid to look at our debt, to really say, what, let me look at it so I can come after this and deal with it. We talked about earlier, how to, maybe pay off some of your smaller balances, or even some with, the higher interest rate. But sometimes it's a little easier to knock out the lower balances, even if the rates are lower. And we talked about maybe combining, putting, most of the debt on the lowest interest rates. If one of the things I'm real careful of recommending is people take a home equity loan to pay off what I call unsecured debt. So understand there's different types of debt. You have secured debt and unsecured. So secured debt is when it's secured by your house, your car, some assets that you own. So if you don't pay it back, they can come back and get it. Unsecured is they can't do anything but, hurt your credit. So that's what you have to understand going from unsecured to secured debt. All debt's not bad if you know how to use it. So there is a proper way to use debt, but so when you understand value, you don't abuse debt. So that's why it's important. And, so here we are in, Deuteronomy, and, God's telling them, hey, go in and possess this land. But they got to go take it. He just didn't, he set it aside for them. But they got to go get it. So we looking at this stuff. Are we going to go get it? Or as y'all been hearing me moan and complain and say this, or we just gonna pray, sit on the couch and wave a magic wand and rub, genie in the bottle, God, Jesus is gonna come out and make it happen. And if that's where you are and you think and that works for you, by all means, keep rolling with it. I just haven't found that to work out for too many people, that they typically gotta go out and possess the land, even with the fear. Oh, they're so big, they're giants. God said, I am with you. This is no different. Some of us have, a mountain of debt. So we got to go get it. And what we have to do and what we have to remember is to be strong, but be obedient. We got to follow his laws and covenants. The reason that, Moses had to redo the Ten Commandments because they were disobedient back in Egypt. Then he had to come over and start all over again. So we got to make sure we do the things we're supposed to do of God. We got to live that life that's part of the contract, the covenant. We can't get away from that. So we really have to understand, what's going on. So one of the things, and I want to bring this up. Let me see if I can bring this up. There is a scripture here. And where is it? Right here. I think this is it. This is the one I want. And it's Deuteronomy 9 and 4. Okay. And, one of the things we got to be careful of is, we thinking we doing all this. Yes, God gives us the ability, but we gotta be careful because we think we're doing things, and it's, we can't forget to give God the honor and the glory, but he's given us that strength, and we can't lose, sight of that. So, after so 9:4 says, after the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourself, the Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness. Nor is it on the account, no, it's on the account of the wickedness of the nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you're going to take possession of the land, but on account of their wickedness of these nations, the Lord will drive them out before you. And I want us to understand something, and this is something I always, try to keep in my own, mind, is anything that I've done, all my accomplishment, it wasn't me. It was God helping me. And sometimes it wasn't because I was so good. It's because, what? They worse than you. I want you to take it and see if you're going to get it right. So that happens. That it's not always that we so good. So we want to, pat ourselves on the back there. I mean, I'm living good, man. God didn't, he let me have this. And so here's another one here. I'm going to go back over here and this is still Deuteronomy 9, but this is after he was talking and Moses and they were like, you know what? I told you. He said, and the Lord said to me, I have seen these people and they are stiff-necked people indeed. So he calling us stiff-necked, even though he's giving us possession of stuff, we're still can be stiff-necked, not being obedient and doing what we're supposed to do. So we got to be real careful of thinking we're doing what, we so good and this is why these things are happening. But we do want to keep and retain the good things that the Lord has for us. So it's very important that we keep our obedience and we continue to have him unlock his promises. So one of the things, is that, we got to have, we got to pay our tithes and offerings. One of the things that is so important is the tithe. He talks about it right here, Deuteronomy 14:22. Be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he chooses as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God. But if that place is too distant and you have been blessed and you cannot carry your tithe because of where you are, it's too far, or the church is closed because of COVID, you can't, now you feeling like, you got all these excuses, you still got to pay. He said, because if you can't go, okay, then exchange your tithe for silver and take it to another place that God would choose. He said, look, just because the churches are closed doesn't mean the tithes and offerings stop. Because I believe, some of us are still getting word on Sunday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. They don't stop. If your church is not having any type of involvement for you to get fed, we right here at the Renaissance. Dr. Cheney be glad, to take you in this fold that you can pay your tithes and offerings. But it doesn't matter that this pandemic is here. He's still saying you got to find a way to pay this because you're still getting your salary, you're still getting blessed, financially, spiritually. And it's not always about financial. My last year and a half has been more of a spiritual blessing than anything that I can add, for dollars. So how does that really look? How do we get past this? So understanding this value, we don't waste. The budget kind of helps us look. I'm gonna bring this one back up again. I hope I can. All right, here we go. I apologize here and bring this back up. So I want to show you something on this that, this person here, when we were working and they just they didn't see it. They didn't have any money at the end of the month. They just couldn't believe it. Well, when we kind of just gathered everything, we went out, sent the spies out to gather all the data so we can kind of come up with a plan. When we started putting this plan on paper, it was like, you know what? I can kind of make this happen. And if they follow this plan, at the end of September of next year, they should have $30,000 in the bank. Now they're paying off a whole bunch of debt, and things of that nature, but you can follow when you have the evidence, you have the data in front of you. Do not run from it. And I know it's difficult because I have clients, that they would run from me for weeks and months. And then they have another catastrophic financial issue. And now it's harder to even deal with because, it's gotten worse. So we have to understand that getting this data, looking at it, we tell ourselves, okay, what's the value if I spend this, if I do this? If I save here, how am I helping myself? Lord, help me see this. And that's why coming into his presence is so important, because he opens our hearts and our minds and brings, the people and the things that make the doors open. And then because of our righteousness, we get that change order that we talked about earlier. You know what? You've been obedient. You've done what you're supposed to. Here's this change order. You get ready to make more money. So so just understanding these principles are very important. And so getting this debt, looking at these schedules is only a small piece of it. But we mentally have to believe and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. God, give me the strength. Yes, I see, this land that you're telling us to go possess. Now I can just sit back. You showing it to me. Here's all the evidence. This is the way I can get out. This is how you can win this battle. But what are you going to do? Are you going to sit on the couch? Are you going to whine and complain? Say what you don't have? Who holding you back? When is this going to be your issue? And you don't have to be a victim. Well, this happened to me, that happened to me. So what? Things happen to all of us. Man, if my life was revealed, some folks say, man, how do you get through this? We got to get through whatever is in front of us. Do we believe that God can give us the strength? We can quote the scripture. And that's why I want you to really go back and read Deuteronomy and really read those first 5 books. Read them by themselves. For me, I found it kind of, I don't know, I'm going to say not making sense, just not working, trying to quote a scripture here and there and taking it out of context. And I think that's what got me in trouble so much, trying to, memorize the scripture because it sounds good. But when I started going back and reading the complete books by themselves, then it started coming to life. We call this the living Bible, the living word. And to make it come alive, it's not just about reading it for memorization, but trying to read it for content as it relates to you, to create your covenant. We're promised, that, the covenant of Abraham and Joseph and Jacob and, the whole generation. But we also saw he had cut it off. When Joshua gave all his praises to God. We talked about Solomon a little bit, so remember, Solomon, the first thing he just asked for was just wisdom. And God was pleased with that. But because he went with the pure heart, he got blessed, real blessed. But it got taken. So I would rather get the blessing on the front end, knowing that I went in it with a pure heart, as opposed to I'm giving it to you because they so bad, because that's really more pressure. I'm like, man, that means if I don't act right, he gonna have somebody come in and take it from me. And I don't know, have you ever been in debt, got out of debt, then went right back? Get out of debt. We laugh, at our firm, we talk about the value of our services. And when people come to us and they owe $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to the IRS, they'll give us their firstborn. They will sacrifice that to stop the IRS from calling. If you ever been in IRS, had IRS issues, it can be nerve-wracking. I get it. The question is, when it's gone, now, oh man, I feel better. Oh man, I owe you this amount now. Sometimes we got to get that money up front because the value of the service is not good. It's not as valuable anymore because now that pressure's off. That's why it's so mental. I'm gonna make it a little different. Now, I ain't saying none of y'all did this, but, maybe, when you was in college or something, you had a weekend and you're drinking and smoking and everything. And you got real intoxicated and you were sick, room spinning and everything. And it's probably didn't happen to none of y'all, but I'm just telling y'all, I know some folks it's happened to. And it's like, God, if you can just get me out of this, get me through this, don't let me get sick, don't let me call. Oh, I ain't gonna do this no more. Now, not only do we probably do it again, it don't take long to do it again. But this is no different than so many other life. And financial is no different. Lord, get this debt off of me and I won't do it again. Well, if you got the same habits, you're doing the same thing, right? So that's why getting your covenant in order is important. Write it out. What you say what the scope of work is. Remember, we talked about the scope. You got to understand the scope of work. You got to understand his stipulations. Because there's a bunch of stipulations in there that we got to follow. And if things, we need to put in a change order or we blew it. You know what? I blew this bid here. Oh man, I got to eat this. But if you bring it and say, you know what? I missed this bid. Can you help me out? So we just got to get transparent with ourselves and say, you know what, God, I'm sorry. I want to get it right. You know what? I had not been paying my tithes and offering like I should. And I'm gonna challenge you this evening. The Renaissance has, Givelify, you're gonna get your deduction, become, a partner with them. We're gonna be doing this and Pastor Cheney's on Sundays, and they help get you through whatever you may be going through financially, spiritually, and even, physically. And all it becomes a mental battle. And let's show, God, I'm serious about this. How do you show God you're serious about what you're going through or what you want him to get you out of? What do you do? What do you show for that? So, Pastor Chain is going to come on. He's going to tell you some more about the Renaissance Fellowship. We're going to keep these things going on. So this debt thing is something we should be able to break. I'm going to really ask you that you go and get the form. So I do want to show, let me see if I can bring this up real quick. I want to bring something up. So just give me a minute, guys, as I do this. Okay. So I want to show you the website where we have a lot of stuff. Okay. And you can catch all these episodes here, but also we have links and stuff here. And this is where you can get a lot of data. And you've heard me talk about track and field a whole bunch. And there's a guy who was a guest, on this podcast. And I just want to show you this guy. Okay. This guy still won the silver medal. All that work. And you heard me talking about training in 2003 with these Olympians. He's one of the guys. And I want you to go back, go to this website. I want you to listen to his podcast. I want you to listen to his episode as he tells you his journey through one of his Olympics. This wasn't his first Olympics. And what he had to overcome, what he thought was so insurmountable. So us getting out of debt, that's nothing. That's nothing. So please go listen to that episode. And I think it'll bless you to really see what people go through to achieve greatness. And we're great in our own right. And we have to believe that God is going to bless us, that we are his child. Or do we just like quoting things that make it sound good when we, at church and stuff? I don't know. You got to answer that for yourself. But what I do know is that it does work. I've seen him do it in my life. I've seen him do it in others' life. And the one thing you've heard me say, you can never judge why somebody got what they have. They may be doing something you don't even understand. That covenant's so different. And you can't never judge why someone's getting the blessing you think should be yours. Let's just do our part. Let's do our part. And I guarantee you these tools will help. And we just got to get through the mental piece to understand what God has for us. So the charge is go back and read Deuteronomy in its entirety to understand that they had to go fight to possess the land, to get the land of milk and honey. Wasn't just given. They had to believe. Even after they were murmuring, God still honored it because of the covenant. And if we believe we have those same covenants, why is it so different? Why is it so hard for us? So as we go on for this next week, I want to make sure that we understand what our role is, what we have to do, what God's expectation is for us. And if you follow it, work, I'm open. You can call, you can write and say, Corey, help me with this spreadsheet. No charge. I'll be glad to help you with the spreadsheet. But you got to use it. You got to get with me this month to let me know that, hey, I need help with it. And it's just a matter of just putting it together. It's just like going out, sending the spies out to see what's happening. Let's be the spy. Let's go spy together, and then let's come back. So I want to thank you guys for, sharing your evening with me. And hope to see you again. Doc Cheney. Well, he may have had to have dropped off. So I want to thank you guys for joining, and we will see you guys next week.